I never thought I'd be afraid of my own birthday. But there I was, sitting in that restaurant, surrounded by people I didn't know, listening to my son-in-law joke about how he couldn't wait for me to die. I should probably start at the beginning. My name is Margaret Chen, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 62 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a good life. I'd spent 30 years teaching elementary school in Portland, Oregon. I loved my students, loved watching them learn to read, loved the way their faces lit up when something finally clicked. When my husband Robert died 5 years ago, teaching became everything. It filled the silence in my house, gave me purpose when the grief felt like it might swallow me whole. I retired last year, not because I wanted to, but because the school district offered an early retirement package, and financially, it made sense. Robert had been a careful man, good with money. Between his life insurance, our savings, and the house we'd bought 30 years ago in what was now a very desirable neighborhood, I was comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable. The house alone was probably worth close to $400,000 now. I had one daughter, Sarah. She'd always been a sensitive child, artistic, a bit dreamy. I'd encouraged that in her, enrolled her in piano lessons and art classes, drove her to every recital and exhibition. When she met Marcus during her MBA program, I was happy for her. He seemed ambitious, stable, the kind of man who could provide security. They married when she was 30, and for a few years, everything seemed fine. Then things started changing. Small things at first. Sarah stopped calling as often. When we did talk, Marcus was always there, interrupting, correcting her, speaking for her. She'd apologize for not visiting, always citing Marcus's work schedule, his business dinners, his networking events. I told myself it was normal, that newlyweds needed space, that I should give them room to build their life together. I was making excuses. I know that now. When Marcus suggested throwing me a birthday party for my 60th, I was touched. Sarah called, excited in a way I hadn't heard in months. "Mom, Marcus wants to do something really special for you. He's booking this amazing restaurant, inviting people, the whole thing. You deserve it." I should have known better. I should have heard the hollowness in her voice, the way she said, "Marcus wants" instead of "we want." But I didn't. I was just happy to have my daughter back, even if it was only for one evening. The restaurant was in downtown Portland. One of those places with a sommelier and cloth napkins that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. Marcus had invited his colleagues from the financial advising firm where he worked, some of Sarah's former classmates, a few neighbors I barely knew. Not my friends, not my former colleagues from the school, not anyone who actually knew me. I felt out of place from the moment I walked in. Everyone was dressed in expensive business casual, talking about stock portfolios and real estate investments and vacation homes in Bend. I was wearing a nice blouse I'd bought at Macy's with a coupon, slacks from my teaching wardrobe, sensible flats. Sarah gave me a tight hug when I arrived, but I could feel her tension, could see her glancing at Marcus for approval. Dinner was awkward. I sat at the head of the table, while conversations flowed around me, never quite including me. When someone did address me, it felt performative, like they were checking a box. "Oh, you were a teacher? How lovely. That must have been so rewarding." Then they'd turn back to their real conversations. I excused myself after the main course, needing a moment away from the noise and the pretense. The bathroom was down a narrow hallway, past the kitchen. I was walking back when I heard Marcus's voice coming from a small alcove near the bar. He was talking to another man, both of them holding expensive whiskeys. "Honestly, I'm just waiting for the old lady to kick it," Marcus was saying, laughing. "Sarah's been an only child, so everything goes to her. The house alone is worth $400,000, probably more if we wait another year. Plus whatever's in her retirement accounts." I stopped walking. I couldn't breathe. The other man said something I couldn't hear. "Oh, she's healthy as a horse, unfortunately," Marcus continued. "But she's 60 now. 62, actually. How much longer can she really have? 10 years? 15 if we're unlucky? And honestly, the way she's living in that big house by herself, it's practically going to waste. Sarah and I could actually use the space. We're thinking about starting a family, and that house is in the perfect school district." "Have you talked to Sarah about this?" the other man asked. "Sarah does what I tell her," Marcus said, and I could hear the smirk in his voice. She feels guilty about the old lady being alone. But I'm working on it. Once we get the house, we can put her in one of those assisted living places. She doesn't need all that space. Hell, she barely needs a bedroom at this point. I didn't hear what came next. I was already walking, my legs moving on autopilot, heading for the exit. I found Sarah near the entrance, checking her phone. "Mom? Where are you going? We haven't done the cake yet." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She'd lost weight, I realized. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She was wearing a designer dress I knew she couldn't afford on her gallery manager salary, which meant Marcus had bought it, which meant Marcus controlled what she wore. "I'm not feeling well," I said. "I think I should go home." "But Mom..." "Thank you for dinner, sweetheart. Tell Marcus I said thank you." I left before she could argue. I drove home in a daze, Marcus's words echoing in my head, waiting for the old lady to kick it. Put her in assisted living. Sarah does what I tell her. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Robert for 28 years, staring at the ceiling, and I let myself finally see what I'd been ignoring for 3 years. My daughter was trapped, and her husband was counting the days until I died. The next morning, I did something I probably should have done months ago. I went through the house and gathered all my important documents, my will, my banking statements, the deed to the house, Robert's life insurance papers. I'd been meaning to organize them anyway, to make sure everything was in order for Sarah when the time came. That's when I found it. In my desk drawer, tucked behind some old tax returns, there was a document I'd never seen before. It was a revised will, dated 3 months ago, with my signature at the bottom. According to this document, I was leaving everything to Sarah, with Marcus named as executor of the estate. There was also a power of attorney form, giving Marcus the right to make financial and medical decisions on my behalf if I became incapacitated. I stared at the signature. It looked like mine. The loops were right, the slant was right, but I had never signed this document. I had never even seen it before. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my real will, the one my lawyer had drawn up after Robert died. In that version, yes, everything went to Sarah, but with clear stipulations. She wouldn't inherit until she was 40 or until my death, whichever came first. And even then, half of the estate would go into a trust that would pay out gradually. It was Robert's idea, a way to protect her from making impulsive decisions while grieving. This new document had none of those protections. Everything would go directly to Sarah immediately upon my death, with Marcus controlling it all. Someone had forged my signature. I sat there for a long time, holding both documents, trying to make sense of it. Then I remembered. 2 months ago, Marcus had stopped by the house. Sarah had been sick with the flu, and he'd said he wanted to pick up some of her things, her favorite blanket, her childhood stuffed rabbit. I'd been in the shower when he arrived. Sarah had given him a key years ago, so I'd told him through the bathroom door to just let himself in. He'd been alone in my house for at least 20 minutes. I felt sick. I felt violated. But mostly, I felt stupid. How had I not seen this coming? How had I been so naive? I took photos of both documents with my phone. Then I called my lawyer. Patricia Wu had handled Robert's estate and had helped me with the will 5 years ago. She was in her 50s, sharp, no nonsense, the kind of lawyer who didn't suffer fools. When I explained the situation, she didn't tell me I was overreacting. She didn't suggest there might be a reasonable explanation. "Bring both documents to my office," she said. "Today. And Maggie? Don't tell anyone you found this. Not even Sarah. Especially not Sarah," I said quietly. Patricia examined both wills carefully, comparing the signatures under a magnifying glass. "This is forgery," she said finally. "And it's not even good forgery. Whoever did this traced your signature, probably from a document they had access to. The pressure is uneven, and there's a slight tremor in the pen stroke that wouldn't be present if you'd signed it naturally." "It was Marcus," I said. "It had to be. Probably. But proving it is going to be complicated. We need to involve the police, but we also need to be strategic. If we move too fast, he might destroy evidence or manipulate Sarah into lying for him. What do I do?" Patricia leaned back in her chair, studying me. "How far are you willing to go? Because this isn't just about fixing your will. This is about protecting yourself from someone who's planning to steal everything you have." I want him stopped, I said. I want him away from my daughter, and I want to make sure he can never do this to anyone else. Then here's what we're going to do. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. Patricia helped me document everything. We went through my house with a fine-tooth comb and found 2 more forged documents. A signed form requesting a home equity line of credit for $200,000 and a beneficiary change form for my retirement account, naming Marcus as the primary beneficiary instead of Sarah. None of them were real. None of them had my actual signature, but they were all official-looking enough that if I had died suddenly, they might have been processed before anyone thought to question them. Patricia filed a police report. The detective assigned to my case, a woman named Linda Torres, was skeptical at first. I could see it in her eyes. Another family drama, another elderly woman who probably just didn't remember signing things. But when she saw the documents, when she compared the signatures, her expression changed. "Mrs. Chen," she said, "has anyone tried to pressure you into signing over control of your assets? Has anyone suggested you might need help managing your finances?" "Not yet," I said. "I think they were waiting." Waiting for what? For me to get older, sick, confused, something that would make it plausible that I'd willingly sign everything over. Detective Torres nodded slowly. "We see this more than people realize. Adult children, in-laws, they get impatient. They see their parents as obstacles standing between them and money they think they're entitled to. And sometimes, they take steps to speed things along." She started investigating. In the meantime, Patricia helped me protect myself. We created a new will, this one leaving my estate in a very different way. Sarah would receive 25%, with the remainder split between the literacy program at my old school and the local animal shelter where Robert and I used to volunteer. The will was ironclad, witnessed by 3 people, with video documentation of me signing it while clearly stating I was of sound mind and under no duress. We also set up a living trust, transferring ownership of the house and my financial accounts into it immediately. That meant even if something happened to me, Marcus couldn't touch anything. A neutral third party would manage the estate according to my wishes. I felt both powerful and heartbroken. I was protecting myself, yes, but I was also accepting that my daughter might never speak to me again once she found out what I'd done. Then Detective Torres called. "Mrs. Chen, we've found something. Marcus has done this before." I sat down heavily. "What?" "He was engaged before he met your daughter. The woman's name was Jennifer Reeves. She was the daughter of a wealthy developer. They were together for 2 years, and during that time, Marcus convinced her to add him to her trust fund. When her father found out, he had Marcus investigated and discovered he'd been forging Jennifer's signature on loan applications, credit card applications, even a deed transfer for a property she owned. The family pressed charges, but Marcus's lawyer got him a deal. He paid restitution, attended some financial ethics classes, and the charges were reduced to a misdemeanor. "Sarah doesn't know," I said. It wasn't a question. "I don't think so. It happened in California, before he moved to Oregon. And he was careful. He changed jobs, moved states, basically reinvented himself. He's a predator." "Yes," Detective Torres said. "And your daughter is his victim too, just in a different way." That night, I called Sarah. She'd been distant since the birthday dinner, sending occasional texts but never calling, always saying she was busy. When she answered, I could hear Marcus in the background. "Mom, is everything okay? I need to talk to you, sweetheart. Can you come over tomorrow? Just you, please. Marcus usually drives me. Take an Uber. Please, Sarah. It's important." There was a long pause. "Okay. I'll be there at 2. She arrived at 1:45, which told me she'd been worried. I made tea, the way I used to when she was in high school, and needed to talk about boyfriend problems or college applications. We sat at the kitchen table, and I slid the forged documents across to her. "Do you know what these are?" I asked. Sarah picked them up, her expression confused. Then recognition dawned. "Oh, yeah, Marcus said you'd asked him to help you organize your estate planning. He said you were worried about being forgetful, that you wanted to make sure everything was in order." "Sarah, I never signed these." "What?" "I never signed these documents. I never asked Marcus to help me with estate planning. These are forgeries." My daughter's face went white. "That's not possible," he said. "Look at the date on this will. 3 months ago. Do you remember 3 months ago? You had the flu. Marcus came to the house to get some things for you. I was in the shower, and he was alone here for 20 minutes. No, Mom. You're confused. You probably just forgot, Sarah. I'm 62, not 92. I don't forget signing legal documents, and I certainly don't forget giving your husband power of attorney over my finances and medical care." She was shaking her head, but I could see doubt creeping into her eyes. Why would he do that? That doesn't make any sense. So I told her. I told her about the conversation I'd overheard at my birthday dinner. I told her about the investigation, about Marcus's previous engagement, about Jennifer Reeves and the forged documents in California. I watched my daughter's face crumple as each revelation hit. "He said I was paranoid," she whispered. "Last year, when I asked him why we never saw you anymore, why he always had a reason we couldn't visit, he said I was being clingy, that healthy adults don't need to see their mothers all the time." I thought. Her voice broke. I thought I was being childish. "Oh, sweetheart. He controls everything, Mom. He picks out my clothes. He monitors my email. He deposits my paycheck into his account because he says he's better at managing money. I can't even buy coffee without checking with him first." I reached across the table and took her hand. It was thin, cold. "How long has this been going on?" "Since we got married. But it got worse after your birthday. He kept asking about your will, about whether you'd updated it recently. He wanted to know if I knew where you kept your important documents. I thought he was just being practical, thinking about our future." "He was thinking about your future," I said quietly. "Just not the one you imagine." The next week was chaos. Sarah moved back home with me, leaving Marcus while he was at work. She took nothing but her clothes and her laptop. Detective Torres arrested Marcus at his office the following day, charging him with forgery, attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person, and identity theft. Marcus tried to fight it. He hired an expensive lawyer, claimed I was senile, said Sarah was being manipulated. But the evidence was overwhelming. The forged signatures, the previous case in California, the testimony from Jennifer Reeves, who flew up from San Diego to tell her story. The financial records showing Marcus had already taken out a loan against my house using the forged documents, though the bank had frozen it when Patricia alerted them to the fraud. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial. He got 3 years in prison, which felt like nothing compared to what he'd tried to do. But it was something. It was accountability. Sarah fell apart after the arrest. The divorce moved quickly since there were no children, and Marcus was facing prison time. But the emotional fallout was worse. She'd lost 3 years of her life to a man who'd been planning to kill her financially and isolate her completely. She blamed herself, said she should have seen it, should have protected me. I told her what I wish someone had told me years ago. Abuse is insidious. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps in slowly, making you doubt your instincts, your memories, your worth. By the time you realize what's happening, you're already trapped. Sarah was broke. The divorce left her with nothing because Marcus had put everything in his name. Her savings, her car, even the furniture in their apartment. She had her job at the gallery, but it barely paid enough for rent in Portland. I could have just given her money. Let her move back in permanently, handed her a credit card, solved all her problems. But I remembered what Detective Torres had said. Sometimes people need to earn their way back to trust. So I made her an offer. "You can live here," I said, "rent-free, while you get back on your feet. But I need help. The literacy program at my old school needs volunteers to run the after-school reading program. It's 3 days a week, 2 hours each day. Do that for 1 year, and we'll talk about the future." Sarah looked at me, tears in her eyes. "You want me to prove myself. I want you to remember who you were before Marcus. You used to love working with kids, remember? You wanted to be an art teacher before you decided on business school." He said teaching was for people without ambition. He was wrong. My daughter went to work at the literacy program. At first, I could tell she was doing it because I'd asked, because she needed a place to live. But after a few weeks, something changed. She started coming home excited, talking about the kids, about their progress, about how one little girl who'd been struggling with reading had finally made it through an entire book on her own. Her face, "Mom," Sarah said one night over dinner. She was so proud of herself. She looked at me like I'd given her the world. "You did," I said. "That's what teaching is." 6 months later, Sarah enrolled in a credential program. She wanted to teach art now, she said, to elementary school kids. Show them that creativity wasn't frivolous, that it mattered, that they mattered. I went back to my lawyer. "I want to change my will again," I told Patricia. She raised an eyebrow. "To what?" 50% to Sarah, 25% to the literacy program, 25% to the animal shelter. But Sarah's portion goes into a trust that she can't touch until she's 40 or until I die, whichever comes first. And she only gets it if she completes her teaching credential and works as a teacher for at least 2 years. You're making her earn it. I'm making sure she becomes the person I know she can be. Patricia smiled. Your husband would approve. Today, 2 years after that terrible birthday dinner, I'm sitting in my kitchen watching my daughter prepare for her first day as a full-time art teacher. She's nervous, excited, talking too fast the way she used to when she was young and hadn't learned yet to quiet herself down for Marcus. She's 38 now, healthy, strong, herself again. The gallery promoted her to assistant director, but she's leaving to teach because that's where her heart is. We don't talk about Marcus much. He's out of prison now, living in Seattle with his parents, apparently. There's a restraining order, so he can't contact either of us. Sometimes I wonder if he understands what he lost, if he realizes that his greed cost him everything. But mostly, I don't think about him at all. Last week, Sarah brought up the will. "Mom, I know about the changes you made," Patricia told me. And I think it's fair. More than fair. After everything I put you through. You didn't put me through anything. He did. I let him, she said softly. I let him control me, manipulate me, poison my relationship with you. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for that. You already are, I told her. Every day you teach, every kid you help, every time you choose yourself over what someone else wants you to be, you're making up for it. She hugged me then, and I let myself cry a little, for the years we lost and the years we're finding again. People ask me sometimes if I regret the way I handled things, if I wish I'd just talked to Marcus first, given him a chance to explain, kept the family together at all costs. I tell them no, because here's what I learned. Family isn't about blood. It's not about obligation or guilt or staying together because that's what you're supposed to do. Family is about respect, trust, love that's freely given, not extracted under duress. My daughter had to hit rock bottom to find herself again, and I had to be willing to let her fall, to set boundaries, to say no to what was easy in favor of what was right. It wasn't the birthday I'd imagined, but it gave me something better than cake and presents. It gave me my daughter back, and it reminded me that I'm not too old to fight for what matters, that my life has value beyond what I can leave behind when I die, that I deserve respect, dignity, and a future where I make my own choices until my very last breath. I'm 64 now. Sarah just turned 38. We have dinner together twice a week, and she calls me every Sunday, not because she has to, but because she wants to. My house is still mine. My choices are still mine. My life is still mine. And I'm going to live it exactly the way I want, for as long as I possibly can. Because Marcus was wrong about one thing. I'm not just waiting around to die. I'm still here. I'm still teaching, still volunteering, still making a difference, and I'm not going anywhere for a very long time.